Throughout human history, the group experience has been a catalyst for promoting meaningful change in people's lives. For those going into the helping professions, understanding the different stages and techniques found in group work is vital to becoming an effective leader. For 3 days, 10 people came together to experience firsthand the evolutionary process found in a group setting. Facilitating the sessions were Dr. Gerald Corey and Ms. Marianne Schneider Corey, who were later interviewed by psychologist Dr. Robert Haynes about their experience.
What was the purpose of this project, and what can viewers expect to see?
Well, for a long time we wanted a video that I think would depict the stages of a group and the life of a group. But we were very hesitant because we did not want to do a scripted group, a rehearsed group.
We wanted it to be a real group with people who would deal with real issues.
Basically have them be themselves and do that for 3 days and then cut out 2 hours worth of video.
All of the participants have had contact with us in the past and have had some groups with us in the past, but the members themselves did not know each other. So you're seeing these members getting together for the first time, and you see how a group evolves with 8 people from the beginning to the end.
Is this a fairly typical group, or is this different from others?
I think it is a very typical group for the kind of groups we lead, and with adults and often with college students. And they're very well functioning. But yet I hope as you watch this particular group you find ways to apply what you see to your own kinds of groups.
You'll see and hear that they have a certain amount of reluctance and fears and holding back and kind of wondering how people will think about them and what they'll think about themselves if they say or do certain things. So in that sense I think they're typical.
How can viewers best utilize the video and the workbook as a learning tool?
Well, I think the video and the workbook are one. And it is absolutely essential that as you view the video, you also work with the workbook. Hopefully you'll look at the video in its entirety at least once, but then you'll go over the video many times, stopping at each of the icons and then going to the workbook for further instructions. So those two work beautifully together, and some group counseling book in addition to that, because the workbook and the video only can go so far.
The group in actuality lasted 20 hours, and we were only able to use 1.5 or a little less than 2 hours of that group. So you see nobody's work ever totally. You only see small segments of the work.
And that's where the workbook comes in, because in the workbook we give very specific guidelines about how we continued working with them and why we did what we did.
Sometimes it looks like somebody's ready to do some work and you don't see it. And it's probably somebody's work that was not included in the tape. There are many times when we have a go-around and a check-in, and you may only see one or two, or a dyad. What we did in actuality is everybody checks in. Everybody is being asked to participate and to bring themselves in. For as much as possible, with any kind of group that we do, we have pre-group meetings. And the goal for us is that we basically are concerned about informed consent. And we want as much as possible the members who are signing up for any kind of group with us, that they know what they're getting into, that they're clear about the kind of goals and the kind of things they can accomplish in that group, and that I can give them information to make sure that they're right for the group. And with this particular group was especially important since it was a group that was going to be filmed. And so we needed to address those kind of issues in the pre-session and give the members, as we do in other groups, an opportunity after the pre-session to change their mind if they want to be in the group or not.
And decide what you would want to get for this 3-day group. How can you best prepare yourself for this? That was another piece.
What were the special issues for this group in that they were being videotaped?
Well, I think one special issue is how real would each participant be? There are many things that they would decide as the week unfolded of what to get into.
What I told them is that to be themselves as much as possible. And I, in my own mind, was running a group with them as I would run any other group. And what I used as a safeguard is that the members ongoingly had an opportunity to say, I would rather not have this particular piece of my work included in the video. They could do that throughout the taping of the video as well as some time afterwards in terms of having some reflecting on some of the work at a later time.
The pre-group meeting is the beginning of the group, and it's the formation stage. The initial period of a group, the key struggle is to define trust and to build a net of safety so that people can do the work they need to do. A transitional period, people are finally starting to say things they're feeling and thinking that they may have been holding back on, but now they're bringing that out. Resistance is beginning to be challenged. The working stage of a group is characterized by a deeper level of self-exploration, and people are having a clearer picture of what they want to change and work on. And during the final stage, the major task is to bring the group to consolidation by helping members decide, what did you learn, how did you learn it in this group, and what do you do to apply this in everyday life?
The kind of groups that we do with the population we work with, mostly people go through those kind of stages. But I think you will find in your own work there are many types of population that the group will never get beyond an initial stage, or they might get stuck during a transitional stage and never do any really in-depth work, nor become very cohesive, which is very characteristic of, I think, a working stage.
What are you hoping to facilitate in the initial stage?
It's important to me is that every member has an opportunity to say something in terms of what it is like for them to be in their room at this moment. And I really do insist and keep inviting to get everybody to talk and say something about that.
And I hope that in that very first meeting, people are going to address what they want for themselves in this group.
Talk about some of the anxiety they bring to the group. They're learning one another's names. They're saying something what they were thinking and feeling since they have had the pre-session, and beginning to establish some kind of trust with one another.
There will be 4 primary segments to this program, each representing one of the 4 group stages: the initial stage, transition stage, working stage, and ending stage. For the purpose of self-study, portions of this program will include a specific icon that will appear on the screen. At that point, students will have an opportunity to refer to their workbook for more detailed study.
You know, one thing before we start or say anything at all, maybe I have each one of you just kind of take a breath and just kind of pull back a few seconds and to kind of be aware of yourself, and also be aware of one another in the room and see what the room feels like to you. Okay. So we had a pre-session. Do you have any afterthoughts about that? And any thoughts you had coming up here?
And what might be helpful is to say your name and maybe say something that you thought about or had after reactions in those last 7 weeks. And then when the next person goes, you say the name of the person before you. That way we'll all get to know each other's name.
My name's James.
James, and then
Yes.
who's?
Darren and Jill. Jill, did I get it right? I don't feel as connected with the group because I feel like I've been away from school for a while, so I really felt like an outsider. There were a couple of times, not that I wanted to leave because I felt comfortable, but I was thinking, I'm not really a part of this group.
You feel that sometimes in groups outside of groups.
Yes.
You do.
Sure. Mhm.
So it's a familiar feeling in some
Yeah.
ways.
Mm-hmm.
And as you sit here now, how much do you feel as an insider versus an outsider?
At this moment, if you had
At
to
this moment, I had to
decide,
evaluate.
just kind of, you might look around the room.
I feel 50-50. I feel part of the group and I also feel like an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty even split.
And I hope throughout the weekend that you talk about that more, particularly when you're aware of not feeling included
Mhm.
or when you're feeling outside.
And especially since you're talking about that's also something that you're doing
Right.
in your life away from here.
Right.
How about others?
In the initial stage of a group, it is natural for members to be self-conscious or have feelings of extreme discomfort. Talking about this is encouraged.
You said, when you got in your car, that's stupid. I really said something stupid. What did you do that was stupid?
I rambled.
Okay, so what was stupid is rambling.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, again, I don't know what you would consider rambling for yourself.
Okay.
So when you have a sense that you're rambling, I hope you draw attention to it because you will be aware of it, right?
Yes,
you will
I
know
will.
it. So
Okay.
you at least let us know when you think you're doing whatever it is you do that you eventually call stupid.
Okay.
You know, kind of, so let us know what sense you have about that.
Okay.
What I'm hoping you all do is talk out loud You know, like you're comparing yourself. You're saying, I wonder if I fit in here. You're saying, gee, I said that, it was kind of stupid. Good stuff. And I hope that is what we'll do all weekend, because that'll give us plenty of material to work with.
I kind of felt like an outsider a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and scared to trust, scared to share, but you know, that's why I tried to speak before the last thing and just try to move on.
You know, Andrew, as you're looking around the room, is there anyone in here that you have that you may be feeling a little bit more trusting to than someone else, at this moment at least, that you feel more drawn to, and comfortable around, or whatever?
It's easier for me to trust men than it is women.
Okay, so the men in the room?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who in particular might you feel that way? If you
Like
had to pick
anybody
one?
standing out more?
Well, James and I had a chance to talk last night, and it's kind of nice.
You know, I hope as much as possible, I think, for the next 3 days that we can, you know, be together and have a group, like any other kind of a group. And even so, there's a very important variable that we're being taped and filmed. We've talked a lot about that and how to best deal with the kind of anxiety of being seen by so many people. But, and I hope you take good care of yourself, and in terms of the kind of work you want to do as you're doing it. And I want to be sensitive, particularly to you, if you don't want to get into something that you may not want to do, where I always will ask you, how come you stop, you know, but I may retreat a bit faster and sooner in this kind of a setting than I might otherwise, you know, I have worked with so many of you already, so we have already some trust established. But I look forward to working with you the next 3 days, and I hope that you get a lot for yourself.
And what we're going to ask you to do is find one other partner, and maybe for just about 10 minutes, talk to that person. But be sure both of you talk roughly equally about any of those topics. Fears, hopes, expectations, any concerns you have. Like, what are you bringing right here, right now? Any of those things.
Eye contact with you.
Is that hard?
Yeah.
Group members break into dyads, which can be helpful in building initial trust and understanding among group members.
Each of you have had an opportunity for 10 minutes to talk to one other person. What I'd like to do now is be sure that everyone has a chance to say something that you were telling your partners about fears or expectations you have for this weekend.
A lot of things that I told my partner that I was angry about how society treats people of color, and in particular my things that are going on in my career.
Mm-hmm.
Being an educated Chicano, and how I feel sometimes people still don't see me that way. It makes me angry. I need to prove myself all the time.
I would like to end up in group, after this group, being more accepting of the way that I feel and the way that others feel about me. But my expectation is to go through this group without making anybody mad at me, without crying. And, you know, it's like I want to arrive, but I don't want the process. The process scares me, you know. In my nervousness or in my fear, it's like checking out, making sure if I catch a smile, if I catch, you know, an eye or something, some feedback that I'm okay.
Is there a particular candidate in here of somebody that you want to like you?
Authority figures, you know.
So who are the authority figures?
You and Marianne. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope, again, I've said it to several of you, you really watch when you know when you do what you just said. I don't know when you may be not doing something or saying something because you're aware of my presence, or how might I think about it or feel about it. And the same with Jerry. You know, so I hope you say out loud, right now, I don't want to do this because I wonder how I come across or whatever. Mm-hmm. Call yourself on it. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, I would be. I know I would be afraid of interrupting a group process or something like that, you know, like if that feeling came up for me, I would think, I better not say this because somebody else is in their issue or something like that, so.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you'll allow yourself to run the risk of interfering or interrupting the group process. Would you be willing to try that out?
Okay, I'll try.
And maybe let us, Jerry and me, monitor in terms of if indeed you were getting in somebody's way, or the person who's working might say something. Because if you are so cautious and so aware, you're not going to move.
Other fears or expectations floating around in the room?
One thing that was hard for me was, I've been kind of having this issue lately, is that
like when James and Andrew were talking, like I kind of feel like the young guy, and I felt that way a lot in my family, like the young kid and my 2 older brothers with my dad, and I just felt left out with that. And so when that was going on, it just hit kind of a button for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I hope you remember that.
Yeah.
So, who could be your 2 younger brothers in here, and who could be your dad?
Well, it was my 2 older brothers.
Older.
Yeah, these 2 are like my 2 near my dad, so it's perfect.
Okay. So maybe at some point
At least some of them.
you could do some work with that.
Yeah.
You could bring them in the room.
Yeah. Okay.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Others.
It's a good point you brought up, Darren, because in my family I'm vulnerable.
Could you give us one way that you could be vulnerable in this group?
What's your fear? What could happen in here?
Like I share my pain about or my struggle with my family, and someone come out and say, "Oh well, they sheltered you, didn't they? They gave you money and stuff."
Mm-hmm. Is there another way that you would be vulnerable in here, so that we know?
When I start, my voice can start shaking.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking about my family.
How come you want to change that? Or do you?
I do.
Be different.
I do.
How
Yeah.
come?
Because it was unhealthy for me. I keep all my emotions in and I let it eat me inside.
Will you take the risk of sharing them and finding a way to trust us with those emotions?
How about others? Other things that you said?
In the last 2 years, having had a significant amount of loss and really loss of significant men in my life, I struggle with that in terms of trusting the men in the group and knowing that the way that I've isolated myself recently has a lot to do with my loss. I'm afraid to bring that in.
Mm-hmm. What's happening as you talk about this right
I'm
now?
afraid I'm going to cry.
And you are?
Mm-hmm.
What's that like right now? What are you aware of?
Feeling very exposed.
Mm-hmm.
And who are you particularly aware of, Jill, at this moment? Who's noticing you?
James.
So look at James. And what do you notice?
Afraid of.
We might help to look at him.
Afraid of maybe losing control and not being judged for that.
So as you're looking at him, kind of keep staying focused on, as you're looking at James, what can you read? He's not telling you anything. What are you reading? You have fear of being judged?
I'm not, I don't feel that I'm being judged.
Okay, so you're not seeing that right now?
No, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing?
Compassion.
Is that a surprise?
Initially, yeah. When I first looked at you, it was a surprise.
Well, the loss with 2 significant men in your life.
My ex-husband and my father.
Mm-hmm. Do you think at some point you'd want to talk more about what those losses were like?
I think it would be a good thing for me. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think if I don't, I won't be able to participate much in the group.
Mm-hmm.
In their attempt to get a feeling for the group, the Coreys go on to explore other fears that members might be bringing into the
So
room.
how about other fears?
Although, because she touched a lot on how I was feeling. I've had a relationship and it's just really hard on me. And I haven't really, I was like in a real emotional, just getting over that whole emotion, but I haven't like really dealt with it a lot. And I think my biggest fear is just, it's going to come up. And my biggest fear is just that it's just going to be so big that I don't know how to deal with it.
There are at least a couple of others. I count, you know.
I identify with James's, I don't know if it was a fear, but his concern about being Latino and feeling marginalized at times. I feel as an African American that, especially an African American female, that sometimes I do feel marginalized and that I'm not taken as seriously because of that, as seriously as I'd like to be taken. So.
Can you remember a particular time when you haven't been taken quite as seriously or marginalized? Because I'd like to get a better picture in my mind of what that's like for you, how you experience that.
Either outside or even in here.
This morning, when the ladies in here were talking about their hair and washing their hair every day, it is not practical for an African American female to wash her hair every day. I don't know too many of us that do, and so it makes me feel different, and again, kind of like out of the loop.
So maybe look at Jill. Was she part of it? She's part of those women here.
Yeah, I think everybody was in the room.
No. Right now, looking at Jill, what would you have liked to say?
It's real hard for me to say what I would really have liked to have said because it's not very nice.
It's not what?
Very nice.
Okay.
As you look around the room, what do you notice in here? What's it like? Do you see anybody that looks like you or sounds like you or that can understand you, you think?
Well, I could really identify with Casey when she was talking about, when she said,
tell her.
Casey, I could really appreciate your comment when you said something about ethnicity, and you said, because I'm all ethnic or something like that.
I'm full of ethnicity.
Yeah. And someone asked you what that meant, and I felt like, well, I know what that means, you know. And so that was good to hear.
And what does that mean? One line.
To me, it just meant different, not like the Caucasians in here.
So maybe look at some of the Caucasians in here. How are you different from those folks?
It's my experiences are different.
Uh-huh.
Oh. But look, check the room out in here.
Yeah.
So what's your sense?
When I look at the people, all the people in the room here, I don't really see a difference.
Let me check, Jill, how was it for you to hear Jacqueline say to you, she was talking to you and then she said, I walked away, I didn't say anything. Did you get any reactions?
Oh, I have a very strong reaction.
Maybe you could let Jacqueline know.
Now, being in this group with you, I would not feel comfortable sharing some of my things with you because I would feel I don't trust you.
What was it that happened in particular that made you less trustful toward her?
It was the look on your face when you said, I can't say what I want to say in here because, and your whole face changed when you said, because it wouldn't be very nice. And I just immediately withdrew and thought, this.
So tell her what that was like for you to hear.
What it was like for me to hear.
Maybe again look at Jacqueline, you might remember.
I felt like being me with you is not safe. And so I'm going to have to protect myself around you. And in this group, I'm going to be I am aware of you and the fact that I'm going to be aware of being judged by you.
And how is that for you to hear? Maybe let Jill know.
It feels a little like I think what I was, how I feel as an African American, and I don't always feel safe in the environment that I'm in, and I feel judged. Yeah.
And how is it for you to have heard her say, I don't trust you?
It hurts to hear, and yet I appreciate the honesty.
So would you like to be able to feel any different with Jacqueline?
Yes, I would. And hearing what you just said helps. Also, I am aware that I can't share your experience because I can't have the experience of being an African American woman because I'm not. And I don't know what it feels like to be a Chicano male who's educated and maybe not looked at that way because I'm not. And also, I do know what it's like to be a white female and an educated and intelligent female and looked at like a piece of fluff. I'm a woman and I get angry at how I get compartmentalized by males in my industry, and it just pisses me off. And I feel limited, and like no matter what I say, I'm not going to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And nobody's really listening.
Feelings of alienation can become an important factor with group members. Expressing such feelings is vital and therefore strongly encouraged.
I think it's so important that if you're aware of somebody or something, that you talk about it. You bring it out. I'd like to see you err on the side of saying too much, and then we can at least know what's going on.
And one of the things I wanted to be also sure to address with you is, what do you think you might do this week and that will get in your way? That when you get scared, what do you typically do? How will you maybe not get what you want from this group because you get in your own way? What do you know about yourself?
How, in spite of your best intentions, that you might sabotage some of what you say you want from for yourself from this group.
For me, it would be to withdraw.
Physically,
No,
or even just kind of getting
just
quiet by leaving
kind of
quietly?
getting quiet. That's what I mean by leaving the room.
I'll know I'll edit myself by trivializing what I think my issues are. And by the way I work is extremely hard on myself and belittling myself constantly. So I'll listen to what other people are sharing and I think, well, it's not really appropriate. It's a silly little issue, don't worry about it.
I totally relate to that. Not
what?
just not monitoring or editing is rehearsing. It's like I'm afraid that I can't articulate my thoughts well enough for you to understand me. And I try to perfect whatever I want to say out, just in case that doesn't get messed up. I want to sound intelligent.
I do the same thing. I'm always so concerned about how to articulate and am I going to sound intelligent enough. I'm supposed to be educated, whatever that means, and sometimes I just don't know the right words to say, and that's why I beat myself up after the pre-meeting, because I felt like rather than share in an intelligent way, I just kind of babbled on, and it's painful. It's painful. I have the same things going on inside me, and that's one of my goals here, is to try to somehow work with that and see a better result.
How's that for you to hear?
It feels nice that someone has a problem. Because I see you as thoughtful of what you communicate, and I observe that. And I would never have guessed that you felt that way.
If somebody will hurt my feelings in a group, I'll try really hard to not react like I'm thinking I'm being too sensitive here. That's taking me away from listening to what they're saying to me.
I tend to withdraw too. I do that, and I just feel like kind of inferior or something. Like I just feel young, and and in a way, in that I feel sort of invisible or something. Like you guys like aren't interested. You guys are talking to each other, but I don't know how to get in with you guys, and it's like I don't.
So it's mostly with the guys you're aware of right now? So keep talking, because you're visible right now, so you're working on it. So what, being more visible, what do you most want Jerry to hear from you right now? Maybe look at him and let him know.
Well, I'd like you to respect, to respect me as much as you respect them.
For me, it's trust. I think trusting a group, like I said earlier, feeling outside of the group. So that's how I would sabotage myself, I think, is by letting myself feel outside the group and also holding back and saying some things that I would want to say and not saying them.
My pattern is to retreat.
I think my first instinct is just to disappear. Just like
By not
I just won't
talking.
exist. Yeah.
If there's any kind of summary to what I'm hearing with all of you, I feel very hopeful that each of you know one or more ways that you kind of get in your own way and you trip on your own feet. And I could certainly identify with a number of you that I heard. I think the thing that you can ask yourself is, what would happen if this week I would catch myself and push myself to do something a little bit different? Instead of being perfect, I'll say it anyway. Instead of closing up, I'll open up and see what that's like.
Was what we just saw fairly typical of groups in the initial stage?
I think for us it's very typical what we saw there, that members are beginning to talk about their initial anxiety when they first get together. and their perceptions of one another. They're aware of some of their reactions to one another.
Virtually all the members are struggling with issues of trust in one way or another. Do I say it well enough? What do you think about me if I say thus and so?
I think what may not have been so typical was the fact that there was almost immediate conflict among several members. And what was brought up, we had a very diverse, culturally diverse group, and people needed to test one another and kind of establish some trust and check one another out in terms of their reactions about that.
Group leaders especially need to be sensitive to the issues of diversity. Without telling members what's going on, they should invite the members to talk about, what are you noticing?
I don't assume that there has to be an issue in terms of cultural differences, but by my asking them, what are you aware of in this room right now with these members, they often will bring this up.
Talk a little bit about the shaping of group norms.
For me, teaching norms is an ongoing process. It doesn't happen in the first few sessions, but it is important that we start early on for members. What I would expect is them to say what's on their mind in terms of what pertains to the group, that as much as possible talk out loud what is going on with them as they're sitting in the room, that they talk to one another. I want to establish the norm to get the members to look at one another rather than just the co-leaders, in this case Jerry and me, and make contact with each other. So that's one of the important norms I wanted to create.
And during the first session, we're trying very much to shape the norm of full participation, going around the room and asking everybody to say something, like, what do you want from this group? Another norm is certainly that they decide what they want to explore, what topics are important to them. The other thing, too, is that we don't want one member at a time working in isolation. As much as possible, we want to foster more of a spontaneous interaction. So if we can see how are 3 or 4 of you struggling with similar issues and concerns, there's a lot more energy within the room.
As trust starts to develop, the group begins the process of transition, where personal issues can be identified for further work.
I was trying to go off what you said and what I've been avoiding. I think one would be issues of trust as far as like relationships go. I think that is one thing I think I'm just starting to realize just lately that this has come up for me.
Where does the wall come up for you?
Where?
Mm-hmm.
If I start to return the feeling of emotions like liking this person, as soon as I start to feel it myself, then it just turns off. Because I feel it, it feels good, but then I just get scared, I just can't trust, and it just turns off.
Mm-hmm. Could you look at somebody and tell them what come you need to avoid that? Pick someone that you feel kind of safe with.
Karen. I want to avoid that because just making myself feel protected because there's a lot of hurt behind it, and I don't want to feel that.
Mm-hmm. So how does it sound to you?
Right on.
Right on.
Sounds right.
I want them to be your own words, but I want to know what you're willing to do, how far you're willing to explore this. You said, as you looked at Darren, that I don't want to get in touch with this hurt. Mm-hmm. And yet you are seeming like you're feeling hurt for a moment. It's mm-hmm. coming to you. Is that something you think you want to explore, some of that hurt, this weekend?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So maybe for a while you might want to lower that wall here this weekend. I'm not telling you to go out to the whole world and be completely open, but maybe here to talk about some of that hurt. Do you think we'll listen? Do you think we'll hear? Do you think we'll be interested in hearing about your hurt?
Part of me feels actually like no.
Oh, okay, then you need to deal with that.
Yeah.
And I hope you make that be the beginning of
Yes.
it. You know, to deal with any one of us that you think would not be interested and would not want to listen to you.
So this be an opportunity this weekend, maybe to let some of that hurt out and see what would happen and see where it would go to explore it a bit.
You know, your picture of the wall.
Mhm.
Well, I'm surrounded with mine on all sides. There's nowhere in. And the only person that has the key is me. And I don't know where it is. So, and I've broken myself down to the point of a little boy. And it's the intimate relationships with women. So, told myself I'm not good enough, makes it safe that I can't get near anybody. The hurtful part about it is I kind of feel like it's taken away some masculinity or something because I've gone back to a little boy. And I've even gotten to the point where the image that I have is I'm looking up to someone for help. And the person I'm looking for is my dad, and he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't get help.
So let me ask you, Andrew, what do you, to keep staying focused to Jill, what do you think happened? Did you, as you're looking at her, you started to cry? What brought up your emotion? Stay focused, look at her.
I think I was running out of excuses.
Mm-hmm. You were running out of excuses.
Mm-hmm. For not getting help. He kind of reminds me of Dad.
Hmm. See what you find out when you look.
I wouldn't want my father to see me like this.
Hmm. So are you having some concerns of how Jerry is seeing you right now?
Mm-hmm.
So could you let him know what those concerns are?
I wouldn't want him to see me as not strong. And like not able to handle it myself.
Jerry or Dad or both?
Both.
Both. So you want to check out?
Yeah, I'm dead.
I was tearing up, and I certainly wasn't in my consciousness. I was not judging you and saying, this is weak. I suppose I'm just thinking, what a shame. You have to surround yourself with a huge wall, you know. And I'm hoping for you that maybe you can let yourself out a little bit more.
Andrew, when you were saying you don't want to be weak, I know how that feels, you know. To not to be weak in front of people, to always have to be strong, and it just gets tiring. You know, my dad's still alive, and you know, I've never told him. You know, my brothers, we always have to be strong. So,
How would you like to be different with them or with him?
I'd like to be able to tell him that, you know, I love him, and we don't always have to be strong. You know, it's okay to have feelings or to be weak in general. That's it. That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
As day one draws to a close, the Coreys make sure that all group members have a chance to identify and express how the day went for them, as well as some goals for the next day's sessions.
So, is that a good time to kind of shift focus a little bit and check in? I mostly want everybody to say something in terms of how the day went for you.
I would just say that I'm very, moved by the work that we did together after this. The stuff that you did to go around was very moving, and for me to get into some of my stuff, I didn't expect that. I just, I feel a little bit naked.
Why I'm doing this is just so you can make a declaration. It may change, and I hope tonight you're going to give some thought to some specific issues you want to bring in. And anything you want to state that you want to begin with tomorrow? Or put on your agenda for tomorrow?
I'd like to work on those issues.
What issue?
Trust issues.
Well, it's kind of foggy.
Okay, rephrase that. I'd like to work on trust issues with intimate relationships with significant others, male relationships, intimate relationships.
I guess my thing that I'd like to deal with is my tending to take responsibility for a lot of things and not feeling adequate enough to do that.
I always feel surprised with the work that I did today. The cultural issue, while it's something that I think the work was good and I would like to do more of it, I didn't anticipate it coming up so quickly and doing the work that I did do with it. It was really scary for me, so that stood out for me.
How about others? I just want to get a quick sense of if we had a barometer of how safe this room feels for you to talk about things that are very difficult.
I feel a lot more safe than I did this morning, and a lot more relaxed. I don't notice the cameras and everything so much, and that helps my safety level also.
For me, the day I think went very well. We have some kind of relationship already, and it shows, that you're very trusting in working with me and opening up. So I think it was a very productive day.
What I particularly liked is that you were willing to talk out loud about some of the things that I think oftentimes people keep inside. So I saw a lot of struggling about how much do I want myself to be known.
And that I hope you do a lot more of, because you keep seeing the results of that. Often you walk away and you think something totally different than what the person was thinking or feeling.
I sense that a lot with your individual work. Like I very much sense how there's more you wanted to do, but you kind of curbed yourself. I certainly sense that with your work with your brother. There was good work, and yet you were also kind of keeping the brakes on in some way. And I think that's developing the trust.
What were you trying to accomplish in this session?
The main thing is trying to create safety within the room. And the way that safety is built is by members talking about what makes it hard for them, what's difficult, how are they aware of holding back and maybe censoring themselves.
I think resistance is a form of protecting yourself from wanting to explore a deeper pain in your life. So I want to approach it with a sense of respect and not insist that they give up the resistance. And
so we're working with resistance, actually, and we're asking people to talk more about how they might avoid and how they're aware of being anxious.
We're exploring the resistance.
It's the very thing that helps a group move to a deeper level. Their willingness to talk about how they're aware of holding back, what they're protecting themselves from. And at the end of the first day, what we're interested in hearing is what were you thinking, what were you feeling, and how do you evaluate your own participation in this group today?
And I also would want to be asking them anything that they might regret having done or said, or anything they might be unfinished with any other member in the group, and how they might continue to work on that in the next session.
But I think the point we want to stress here is that we want everybody, briefly, to have an opportunity to say something about their experience and bring it to closure.
So now, how will you open day 2 of the group?
In this particular session, we used a dyad to kind of get members to talk to one another. It helps them to focus.
And the benefit of hearing from everyone briefly in a check-in is then we have a sense of what's in the room and how can we facilitate work between members, so it's not just focusing on the first person who speaks up.
You will notice that sometimes people tear up when they report on an issue they want to work on. We may attend to them and notice that they are crying, but we don't work extensively with them. We'll say during the check-in time. We really do want to hear from everybody and get some sense of what is in the room, what people bring there, to find out how can we connect people's work to one another.
Good morning, everybody. We're ready for another day. And what I'd like you to do before we kind of get into our session, I'd like you to have a few moments with one another and pick another person, someone sitting next to you, and maybe say something about any afterthoughts last night as you were leaving here, and also how you're coming here this morning, anything that's in your awareness as you approach the group this morning.
Through dyads, members are encouraged to be responsible for what they want to work on this day and to make sure that they identify and address any unfinished business from previous sessions.
What I'd like you to do is to say something right now, and I'd like to hear from everybody, something that you said to the partner that you talked to about how you're approaching the day, and also specifically what you most like to work on today. So who wants to start?
I'll start. I was telling James that if I left here without doing any work about my dad, I would probably be disappointed. So that's something that I would like to bring in today. And I have a feeling, and this is something else that I told James, that my tendency to isolate and not want to socialize very much is probably has a lot to do with that.
Mm-hmm. I feel closer to the group. I don't feel as detached as I did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the trust.
And can you think of one thing that you may have done that might have helped you feel what you feel now, more closeness?
Opened up, probably. That probably is it.
Talked.
Talked.
Yeah. So it's not something they did. It's
something I did.
Yeah. So remember that.
Okie doke.
Who else?
I'm glad we had a dyad because it was uncomfortable to, if we would have had to just go around at that moment, my mind would have been blank. I wouldn't have been able to bring anything up. I was getting kind of nervous thinking that's how we were going to go. But it was real good to talk to Jacqueline, and it helped trigger a lot of those feelings again. So.
What's the issue?
Yeah, the issue is not being enough.
When I woke up this morning, I felt, I know the issues that I wanted to work on that I talked about yesterday with trust. I think that I had felt a lot of anxiety about that today, just coming in here.
I think what I'm really aware of is some stuff with my dad.
So you feel some energy. Could Jerry be helpful for you with that?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's some work you're up for today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hope you do it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
What I really want to work on today is more of the feelings of betrayal and the feelings of not ever being good enough in a relationship, setting myself up. Because if I tell myself I'm not good enough, I don't have to worry about someone getting close because they're not good enough. I'm not good enough. It's not going to happen. It's safe.
You also talked about yesterday at different times in terms of how you isolate as a result of that, and how you wanting to reach out, and it's something that you wanted to do some work with. Is that still something you also have energy with? Yeah.
Definitely.
Who could be helpful to you in this group to work on that issue?
Maybe Jill.
Okay. What about Jill, do you think stands out that right off the top of your head?
We have something in common with our fathers, and we talked before group and we've talked at break, and we just, I don't know, I feel pretty comfortable talking to her.
Would that be okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. It helps to kind of know who you might be able to work with, and also one of the reasons for the check-in is to just kind of get a sense of what is in the room, what energy you are feeling and with what, to kind of see how we might be able to connect you, because our preference is working with several of you. So our hope is others are working. You remember, it always helps for you to bring yourself in if you're affected, so don't hold back, bring yourself in.
As I listen to your check-in, a theme that emerges for me is that one theme is there's some business to do in here. Like Suzanne, you said you have some hesitation of feeling safe in the room. And I hear a similar theme for you. Like, what'll people think of me if they see thus and so? And I hope we begin with that.
In this stage of transition, the Coreys have group members explore even further their feelings surrounding trust.
I wanted to check out with the two of you in terms of you saying, I feel trust, but I'm not close. I'm trusting the group to do my work, but I don't feel close. So can you kind of maybe talk a bit more and kind of check out, even as you talk, and maybe pick out some people and talk to them to kind of figure out what that is for you? As you're looking at Jacqueline, you're saying, what comes up for you in terms of trusting her and in terms of the issue of saying trust and not being close?
That you won't totally understand where I'm coming from, or that you'll see what's happening, but you won't understand the feeling. I think that's it with everyone. Just an overall not totally understanding.
Not understanding?
Yeah.
What's that like for you? What are you aware of?
I feel better. Definitely. I feel the comfort level for myself have gone up than when I first came in and when I first addressed it, definitely.
And you mentioned something about earlier in your check-in about being careful about how much you show for fear that people won't see a side of you that you don't want them to see. Is that operating in this room still? Are you still aware of how much you can show?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. I don't even know why this is so hard. I'm looking down because I don't want to look at people's eyes because I'm afraid to be judged by a couple of people for what I want to share.
Yeah. So I think that would be important for you to look at a couple of people and to, you know, kind of talk with them about your fear that you're experiencing right now of feeling judged before you, before you say anything or do anything at all.
Okay. Suzanne, I feel that I have to watch myself around you after I share about who I am, and also with Jacqueline.
And what are you aware about as you look at Suzanne? You have to watch yourself.
Like you're not gonna like me, or you're gonna even distance yourself.
So if you were to talk more and share more what's in there, she'd feel uncomfortable. And how about Jacqueline? As you look at Jacqueline, what do you suppose she might be thinking? What do you fear she might be thinking?
You might think you're crazy. Well, now I know why she's like that. Something like that.
So both of them are potential judges, and they can judge you in ways that would be hurtful. And so you have to be very careful around them. It certainly seems like a theme of what we've been talking about here, that I wonder if I showed parts of me what you would think and what would go on.
Maybe talk about what direction you're moving here.
I think Casey is getting ready to do more work, and yet she still does not feel totally safe in the room. She feels if she did her work, certain people would judge her. So I think before we can go on with Casey and do more work with her actual issue that she wants to explore, we have to make sure that Casey first feels safe with the different members that she has singled out, and deal with with her projection of judgments that she has with several of the members in the group.
And now what can we expect to see in the working stage?
During the working stage, you're going to see a lot more cohesion and work that takes place on a much deeper level, much more intensity. And that's partly responsible to the work that they did earlier about their fears and their reluctances.
We have to be careful to not just refer to the working stage as that stage is the only stage of work occurs. We have seen work happening all along. It's different kind of work. Casey has done some important work about making the room safer for herself. She will go further and explore to much greater depth some of the issues that are going on in her life with the group that she now is much more trusting toward.
And you're going to see how many other members are affected by Casey's work and other members' work. They are a catalyst to one another.
The group moves into the working stage, where members are more able to address their personal issues.
What I'd like to do is invite whoever wants to do some further work. So the floor is open.
I'd like to maybe start, actually, because I'm really having some stuff come up with Suzanne as far as relationships. Earlier you were talking, you said this for the second day now, about using me as your boyfriend, and that just brings up a lot of my own issues. So, I don't want to force you to do anything you want to do, but I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at.
What kind of work would you like to initiate?
I guess I want to ask her if she wants to work with me. I don't know if you want to work on some of your stuff or you just want to wait, or...
No, I'd like to. Yes.
So, where do we start?
That's the start.
Okay. I don't know, you don't know where to start?
Yeah, not really.
Could you let yourself talk out loud right now, kind of what you're struggling, what is going on, what the hesitation is?
I feel like
And
I
look
jumped
and
in.
talk
I feel like
to
I
her.
jumped in too soon. I feel like I'm forcing you to do stuff that you may not want to do. I don't know. Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
I don't feel that way. I know it doesn't feel that way for me at all. And we've talked about it, and it's something I really want to do today, so I don't feel forced.
But I hope it's not so much Suzanne's work, but more something that you want to bring to
Right.
the table, some struggle you're having.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think it is? What's an area you're struggling with that you want some time on?
Can I go on to the next person?
We could.
I don't know. I don't know why this is so hard.
Since real work is not a comfortable process, resistance can be a natural part of transitioning into the working stage of a group.
I just want to say something before anybody else starts. I think the fear that I was talking about earlier, and it's like if you know me, Suzanne, and if I come out to you, then you're not gonna like me, or you don't even want to come near me. That's how I feel, and that's what was there. And when you were trying to talk to me, I'm like, just eat, just eat it, and
And what were you trying to do with your eating?
to close up.
Close up. And is that what you want to do right now?
No, that's why I spoke up.
So what would be important for you to do right now?
I feel much better if I let you know that, so I won't be afraid to be around you, so I'll know your reaction right now and just get it over with. But I live a different lifestyle, and so I was afraid that being in the same room, if you found out now, then you wouldn't want to hang out with me.
If she found out what?
That I'm gay.
Maybe say that line again, because I'm sitting right next to you and I can barely hear it. Maybe you're looking at Suzanne right now. Can you say that line again?
That I'm gay.
Are you aware of how soft you're saying that? How come?
Because I'm afraid.
Maybe tell her about that fear.
I'm afraid that now you're gonna look at me differently and distant from me, and you think I'm weird or things like that.
So what do you see?
It's a lot of acceptance through your eyes.
Rather than seeing judgment, you saw compassion?
Yes.
And understanding? And it's going to be a challenge to you to hang on to that
Yeah.
and to believe it. What is your fear with that?
Like if I hug you, then you'd think something of me. And that I want you more than a friend or get to know you. That's what I was afraid of, because I like to hug and I like to be able to be intimate and close with people. But I'm afraid mostly with women and with you.
So how could Suzanne help you? What could you ask from her?
I asked that you let me know if I cross your boundaries or affect you in any way that gives you discomfort.
Keep blowing. What happens? When you blow, what goes on?
Release. Just
Release.
Yeah. I'm really who I am now.
I know, it's hard, but can I say, you're making me cry lately. Because I see the struggle, and I have two friends who are gay and in a gay marriage, and I know when I went for 20 years, it's part of their struggle, and it hurts me to see how much you struggle. You're such a delight, and I see how you struggle.
I've been trying to come out to my mom and I see you as the loving, gentle, kind mom. And when I was doing that, it was really nice to have you next to her because I felt like a really good energy.
To assist Casey, Dr. Corey suggests a role play.
So, if there sits your mother, do you feel like trying on a few lines? And I'm not suggesting you try them in real life, but you said I'm having a hard time talking about myself and coming out to my mother. Do you want to try that on here? You're thinking.
Let me ask you something. Is that your agenda or is that Jerry's?
Part of
Is that something that you have wanted to do,
yeah.
Casey? Okay.
It's coming up because I'm graduating and she wants me to live with her again. And she has a lot of things she wants for me. Make money, marry a great guy, and have children and all that stuff. And here's another thing to add on her bad list, I guess. That I'm not a good daughter now. Like I'm a worse daughter now.
So how about starting that way? If this were your mother, you'd want her to listen to you and hear you. Maybe you can start that way. I know you want me to make a lot of money, marry, have kids, and here are some things I want to tell you. Could you try that on and see how that is?
What is so hard? What is so painful right now?
So tired. For her to love me and accept me and
So maybe look at her and tell her that. I'm so tired.
How do you talk to her? In what language?
in Vietnamese.
So would it be better for you to do your work in Vietnamese? It's not important that we understand it.
Yeah.
So say the things you would most want to say to her in the way you communicate with her.
Má, con đã lớn rồi. Con biết sống ở ngoài ra làm sao. Con muốn mất ghét các người mà con đã thành ra sống. Mà con không có muốn ghét má, tại má không có thương con. Con muốn má biết là mặc kệ ra làm sao con sẽ thương má. Mong là má chấp nhận con làm con người tốt ở trong đời này.
How is it to say that?
I kept on thinking what she would say back to me.
What would she say back to you? If Casey is over here and I'm Casey and you be mom, what would mom say back in the way she talks to you in Vietnamese?
Mày khùng rồi. Không có thứ người gì ở ngoài đó. Hiểu không? Tại sao mày phải làm tự khổ? Sống ở trên đời này khó lắm. Mà bây giờ mày còn nói mà mày ghê, tao không có chấp nhận được.
Did you say the things that you fear she would say? Can you also say the things as mom that you would like her to say?
The good mom.
Yeah.
What would the good mom tell Casey?
What would your mother say if you could have it any way you'd want?
Anyway.
You're struggling. Can you talk out loud what's happening? How come you're struggling with that?
Like she can't even think that way, or she won't say it if she thinks.
But you can. But you can. You can let Casey, you know what Casey needs to hear. So see the words, if you can find those words. And then, Mom.
I'm also afraid that it's a dream.
It may be. Maybe. But even to see what that might be like, to give that to Casey.
Con của tao. Tao biết mày là con người mạnh. Tao sẽ thương mày. Mà kệ con người mày là thứ nào, tao sẽ thương mày. Tại vì mày là quan trọng trong đời của tao. Má thương con. I love you.
There was another blow. So how was it for you to give yourself those words that you would most, that you want your mom to say? You struggle.
Wonderful. I felt like arms reaching out and just holding me. Like, I don't care who you are. You're my daughter. And I love you. I'm so proud of you.
So, I don't care. I'm proud of you. I love you. You're my daughter. And your arms around you. This damn camera's running around to track me. So can you feel my arms? See, I think it is, that is one of the difficult things I think you need to work through, and I would never encourage you to go out and tell her, because you know what is at risk. Are you willing to take that risk? So I think that's one of the decisions you need to make. Even so, I would, love for you to be able to do that, and you might find as many surprises with your mom as you found it here. Look, even all the things you imagine that Suzanne was feeling, you imagine a lot of that. With your mom, there are much higher stakes. It might there also be the possibility that you could be different.
But what do I have to lose, right?
Well, that's one good question.
By having one of the members do some meaningful work, others in the room cannot help but be affected. This compels others to go further into their own issues.
I was just really touched by the whole thing, and just hearing you talk, and even before when you started, I really felt like I got to know you a lot better. It just was like, kind of like this whole different shift, and just what you were doing, tears were welling up. I was just really touched by what you did.
Me too. I was really struck by that because there were so many things I wanted to hear from my dad about me that were okay, that he saw me and that he acknowledged these parts of me that are really important to me. And I heard some of them right before he died, and I thought how sad it was that it took that long for him to tell me. I've been playing the piano since I was 5, and that was my whole life for such a long time. And when it was time for me to go to college, I had a piano scholarship from the National Guild of Piano Teachers. It was a huge accomplishment, and gold medals all over the place. And he told me that I couldn't make it, that I better find something that will make me money because nobody ever makes it in music. And I never thought like that. And he told me right before he died, he said, you could have made it, you have what it takes. I don't think you ever knew how talented you really were. And I just thought, God, how could you tell me this? I mean, it was 20 years ago you told me I didn't have it.
Jill and others continue more in-depth work in this session. One of them was Jackie.
A real strong reaction. It started with Casey, and then when you shared. And I was trying to picture what I wanted to hear from my mother.
So could you let Jacqueline know what you just said you wanted to hear? I think
And
you
my
said
mom
you can
said
relate.
everything that I want to hear. It's just, it's not that I'm not good enough, it's that nobody.
Nobody what?
That nobody's attention is good enough. It's like I could get it, I could hear everything that I want to hear, and that's not good enough. It's about me, it's not about my mom. My mom left when I was 7, and I always, felt responsible somehow that if I was smarter, prettier, funnier, that somehow I could have, if I was a more desirable person, that she would have wanted to stay.
If you maybe were more perfect?
Uh-huh.
Because you keep talking about that.
And my head, I know that that's not true. It didn't have anything to do with why she left, because I wasn't desirable, but I want to be the center of her world. So it's not that people don't give things to me, it's that I can't give enough back.
Does any of that mean anything to you, Jacqueline? You're tearing up. Don't let her know. You nodded earlier when she said about I'm not being perfect enough.
No matter how much my mother affirms me and says all the right things, it's just really hard for me to take it in. It's just real hard for me to be close to her, and that really hurts. Because that's all I've wanted all my life, is to just be close to my mother. And to get rid of this feeling of rejection that I have. And so we end up just rejecting each other, and I don't even know how to fix it. And she tries and I try, but we miss the mark every time. And I'm just tired of it. I just want to accept her for who she is.
Jacqueline's work continues. Speaking to Marianne as her symbolic mother, she was able to gain some insights about her strong need for approval. Again, the Coreys explore how this affects the others.
When the two we were talking about, especially yourself, Jackie, gosh, if I could go back there, it was like, for me, I was realizing how some of the issues you were talking about were raising my issues with my mom, and not really taking time to acknowledge my mom and, tell her I care about her and stuff like that. And that's what was, because I know how much pain she's experienced in her life, things she's gone through, and what a great mother she's been. And so that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, I'm really having kind of a reaction, because for me it's like when you're talking about like the anger and the love that you can have for your mom, it's like my mom, it seems like she has a hard time seeing me as an adult. Like she doesn't, I don't know, she seems like she just never got to the point. She always just like talked to me like a kid, oh, like you're so cute and all this stuff. And it's like, I wish I had more of a real relationship with my parents that included both. And I think that gets in my way. Like, I think it's got in my way in the group a little bit, because it's hard for me to come forth as an adult person with authority figures and know how to assert myself in that way. And when I hear you talking about that stuff, it's like I feel like, man, I feel so jealous. I wish I could have like a relationship. That's like that's at least a relationship that you could have the possibility to do that and to go through that stuff with your mom. She's there in a way, and I just hear that. It's, and it feels like kind of just like a hole in my soul, as I experience the groups, because I don't know, it's like a block or something for me with that. So.
You said an important word. I experience as a hole in my soul.
Mm-hmm.
You want to look at a few people and repeat that word, that sentence?
Just it feels like a hole in my soul. That I don't know how to, and that's the part where it's like I wish I blame myself for it because it makes it easier. You know, I blame myself like something's wrong with me, and that's why. And I feel that way.
So who could you stay connected to? Who could you talk to, Darren?
I think Jill.
Jill?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like if you were, you know, if I could just say, could you just sort of been there for me when I was growing up and held me along, and my dad too.
Keep looking, even though it's hard.
Like, if my mom or dad could just, when I was going through hard stuff, if I could have told them, they would have listened to me and supported me. And I didn't have to do it all by myself. It was so hard doing it all by myself.
Tell her a little about that. How hard it was to do it all by yourself.
When I was scared or lonely because of friends or whatever, they weren't there. They rejected me, and I wanted to tell somebody how I felt. But it's like I felt so alone with my feelings, and I still feel that way a lot. Like, it's hard for me to show my feelings because I don't know how to show them to anyone.
Well, you're showing a lot of feelings right now.
Yeah. And it was just hard growing up that way. And I wish you could. I know that Mom, it's like what you said, Mariana. It's like, if anybody said anything bad about my mom or dad, you know, I would say, don't say that, because they did the best they could with what they had, and they tried to do stuff, but you know, it still hurt how much I felt alone growing up.
After Darren's emotional symbolic role play with his parents, he begins to deal with some here and now reactions.
So maybe look around this room and see, is there anybody that you haven't made a connection with that you'd like to?
I feel like I've made a. I feel good with you guys. You know, just talking with you guys during the off time and stuff. And I felt like you kind of made a
You mean those
connection.
women over there?
Two guys.
Did I say that?
You kind of did.
Sorry.
How it was to do this piece of work for you.
Hell. It was really hard, and I just.
What was the hardest part?
I just feel like I showed my worst, just my most insecure part, and you know, and it's just hard to show that.
You said it was hard, and I think you saw other people do things, particularly show tears. Did you think? Were you judging them in any respect when that was happening? Did you say, "Gee, what are they doing?"
No.
You didn't?
No.
You never thought that was weak?
No, but I don't feel like I'm that was weak or what I did or something. It was like a different. I don't know. You know, I don't think they were.
Maybe you might need to say a little bit more about that, because I don't want you to just stay with that part of saying I've exposed myself and I'm embarrassed and I've showed my weakest part. So we need to do some more with that.
Maybe do a little more of that out loud here, so that you catch yourself doing it.
Yeah.
And then when you do it, you can say, "Hey, do I want to continue this?"
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Another group member is ready to do some work. This time, the focus is on Suzanne and her inability to trust
I don't
men.
know where to start.
What's it over?
My issues with trust in relationships now, intimate relationships, and just feeling since the last relationship that I was in, now I feel like when I start to get into a relationship, I don't trust the person. What they tell me is completely, I just don't trust it, and I'm afraid of the feelings of like feeling that way again, and just.
So could we be maybe different people, you said, in any kind of relationship? Could we maybe be some of those intimate people that you are not trusting? And maybe say something of how you approach us? Or would you rather work with one person?
I think one
Okay.
person.
And who might that be?
It would be James.
James? And James?
You wouldn't even have to say anything. I think maybe it would be just important that you could say things and verbalize them.
So maybe, again, a good focus for you is, here are some things I usually keep inside, and I want to hear myself say them out loud. I'm just going to see where that takes you.
Okay. I'm so angry. Oh God, because what you did to me, and what it's done to me, I'm just so angry that you can say that you even cared about me, that you even loved me, that you even, oh God, that you were a part of my life. When you can like look me right in the eye and completely lie to me, you can see me hurting me so bad, and to tell you and to watch me just hurt, and for it to mean nothing to you, and for you to be able to do it again and again. And I'm mad at myself for even putting myself in that situation. But more or less, just because now I cannot trust anyone in a relationship now. Because I feel like they're gonna lie to me just like you did. And I feel like everything you ever said to me was a lie. And I feel like everything everybody says to me is a lie.
So how is it for you to say some of those? Those are things you have said to yourself quietly and then ruminate and obsess over a lot. So how is it to hear yourself say it out loud to someone?
It doesn't sound as bad out loud, actually, as it does in my head.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
It doesn't sound as bad out loud as it does in your head.
Well, is there anything in this relationship that you're stuck with in terms of making new relationships? Is there anything unfinished here that kind of hangs around for you that makes it difficult for you to open up again?
Just the deceit.
I think you also had an effect on James. What's going on with you?
A lot of my own stuff with hurting you. Everything you were saying was bringing up my own things.
What would you like to give to him, to take, that you've been carrying around? If you could kind of put something in his lap and say, here, I'm going to give it back to you. What would you like to give him so you don't have to drag along? One thing I'm going to give you is?
Oh God, there's too many.
No, you don't need to list them. Just list them. And hand them over to him.
I want to give back to you all the lies you have so that I can believe people again.
All the lies? Hand them over. You got them in a sack there. Hand them over. What else do you want to give them?
I give them the hurt you've given me, all the pain.
So you got a whole bag full of hurt and pain. So you're going to give it to him symbolically?
I'm gonna give it to him.
So you gave him the lies, the hurt, the pain.
What else?
And I want to give you all the shame that I have created for just letting myself be with you anymore.
So a whole bag full of shame. So you ready to let go of that and give it to him?
Yes.
Let's say, and you know it's not quite that easy, just to symbolically give it over, but let's say that's the beginning of kind of letting go and giving back some of that. Maybe you can imagine how your life might be different if you could move towards that place of giving back some of the stuff you've been carrying around. Let's say even a year has gone by.
Even how are you feeling right now? Having kind of gone through that emotion.
I feel lighter.
Lighter?
I do.
Lighter?
Yeah. I do feel like it's a weight kind of been lifted. Or just
Where was it lifted from?
over here.
Right where?
My shoulders.
Your shoulders.
I just feel lighter. Like it's just kind of lifted me a little bit.
How is it over there?
Through participating in this exercise with Suzanne, James is significantly affected by the experience.
But I want to apologize for the lies and the pain that I caused you and the confusion with all my lies that really messed with your head. You told me that. And I just want to tell you that I love you and I wish you the best in your life. I know I said I'm sorry 1,000 times, but I just apologize. Sometimes I just need you to forgive me. You know, just to kind of give me some relief.
Both Suzanne and James continue symbolic work pertaining to significant others in their lives.
How is it to hear that?
It sounds so sincere, and it feels very good to hear.
I'd like to give her a hug if that's okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay? I don't know. We should
You
do
gotta check it out with her.
Is it okay to give you a hug?
Yes.
What's that like to do that?
That feels very good. Especially to hear you say that you forgive me. That's all.
How was it for you, Andrew, to listen to Suzanne talk and express her pain and her hurt over a relationship? What was it like? Could she have been saying some things that you'd be saying if you were to put the other person there? Did she say anything that might resonate with you?
With the pain and the trust, oh yeah. all of the things that you gave away were definitely there. And one of the other ones I had, well, to me it was bigger than all of those, was betrayal. It's not easy for me to give up my sensitivity and love to another person. And I did. And it got stepped on. So my response is to put all that stuff and put it in the freezer.
All what stuff in the freezer?
All of me.
That's what I was going to say. A lot of times it's not just all that stuff, but you put yourself with it.
Maybe tell Suzanne what that's like, to put yourself in a freezer.
Empty, desperately alone, isolated. Just
Do you think you have done that during this group?
I've kind of blocked people from getting in.
So would you be willing to look over at Suzanne and let her know some of the pain that you've experienced and you've been carrying around as you shut the door?
No.
Okay, that's clear. Maybe tell her, are you willing to tell her how come?
I don't want to pull all of that emotion up right now.
Okay.
I want to get rid of it, but I kind of want to let it slip out the back door so I don't feel it as it comes through one more time.
What do you want to let slip out the back door?
The hurt, the pain. It's like I've been stabbed and I felt it going in. I don't want to feel it coming back out again.
You've been stabbed?
Yeah.
Where? If you had to pick a place in your body,
Just at my core.
where would that be?
Kind of the soul, the heart. The very sensitive part.
So do you see any hope for yourself right now? To make things different for you?
I see a lot of hope. It's just a matter if I choose to take that key and open the door.
You know, I see you kind of holding yourself back, and yet you at least twice have said how you wanted to move towards somebody. One time it was with Casey, when she was working, you really wanted to let her know how you were affected by her, and the same with Suzanne, and you stopped yourself. And that's one way how you can keep isolated, by not giving of yourself, therefore you're also not going to get anything back.
Right.
And I wonder how often, you know, you keep doing that.
I kind of want to, open a door a little bit, but
So how about doing that, even
not
a little
ready
bit, just with maybe saying something to any one of us, just that would mean and imply that you open the door a little bit. Just whatever, Andrew. How could you walk away from this weekend and not be disappointed? And not be really judging yourself?
I'm not sure I can prevent judging myself. That's very, very hard. Because it's by me judging myself so harshly, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that no one's going to like me. So it's a defense for me.
And you want to hold on to it?
No, I don't.
So what do you want to do instead?
I guess kind of stop being my own worst enemy.
What would you have to do to stop being your own worst enemy?
Again, resistance is common in the working stage, where exploring personal issues can be painful. This poses a challenge to counselors.
You do think a lot. You're wearing me out. You realize how hard I'm working?
Can I have another reaction,
Oh.
Andrew, that You know, Andrew, I mean, I feel a lot of stuff you're bringing up with my brother stuff, and like I said earlier, that I just wanted to tell you that you're holding so much stuff behind all these walls, and I'm wanting to pull you out,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just wanting to tell you that it's okay to be weak. It's okay to let that stuff out. And if you ever needed to come to me and talk, I'll be there. But I don't know, man. I want you to just kind of let some of that go, because I know how painful it can be to hold that stuff in. How it is to be hurt and how to hurt and stuff like that. I don't want you to go back into your head. I kind of want you to just feel it. But that's just, maybe that's my need, but my part of my need is because I see you like a brother, an older brother to me, and I saw so many times that you were hurting, and you didn't let anybody be there for you.
I feel very much working hard with you and wanting something for you that I'm not too sure yet that you want. And that is to be more, make yourself more available to other people, let people in, and not let the fear that we're going to hurt you get in the way and stop you from reaching out. But I see you're really struggling. Do I want to? No, I don't. Yes, I do. No, I don't. That's really tough.
I think in the deepest part of me, I really desperately want to.
Yeah. And you kind of, well, I'm not too sure what I want to say, but anyway, that's the biggest thing that I'm kind of aware of with you, how much you struggle with that. Okay, so before we end the day, I wanted to be sure and give each one of you an opportunity to say something that stood out for you today, or anything you want to say about how the day went for you.
I can go off that. From yesterday, just talking about wanting to be more visible in a group setting and making that part of my goal. And then today, doing that, and it being a real difficult experience for me doing that, but being able to let myself go there and take that risk.
I just want to say that one thing it gave me was relief and to begin to forgive myself. That's what it did.
Looking back and knowing how much pain is brought up in these groups, I was really scared this time for that pain, and it wasn't as bad as I had anticipated it to be. It was very, it was worth the process.
What went on in this session we just saw? It seemed like there was lots of emotion.
Casey's work really triggered a lot of members, and that happens many times in a group. When someone is extremely emotional, does some very intense work, it brings in others. And even so, you do only see a few more people's work. Every single person in that room was triggered by Casey and did some very significant piece of work as a result of that. What is very crucial is that we don't leave Casey too soon, that there's some closure to her work before other people are brought in, or if they're brought in or they bring themselves in, that we don't ignore Casey and always go back to Casey to make sure that she has that sense of closure about her own work.
One thing you'll see happen when we do role-playing is it brings the work to life. So as much as possible, we try to deal with this in the here and now.
The members are much more affected by somebody's work when the person is doing a role play in which they're talking directly to a person. It triggers a lot more emotions in other people and helps them to identify more and bring them into their own work. I had Casey in the role play. You notice that I also had Casey talk to her mom in Vietnamese. That was very important to her. English serves in that moment as almost like a defense. It wasn't important that we understood her. The content at that moment is not important. It's only important that Casey can maximize the benefit that she can derive from her work.
Well, in our work with groups, I think one theme that always comes up is dealing with parents.
Darren was very affected by several members of the group. And while he was talking, he used a very powerful metaphor of, it feels like a hole in my soul. He didn't stop, he just kind of continued talking, but I was so impressed with this metaphor of his that I drew his attention to, and I asked him to repeat it, and when I did, you can see how much emotion that evoked in him. It was very obvious that the support was in the room, and Darren could feel the support of the other members in the room. We also encourage him to continue talking even so he cries. Sometimes a member will say, well, I can't talk because I'm crying, and that's not true. They always can continue talking, and a lot of wisdom, a lot of important things are being said during that emotional state, as you can see with Darren.
On the final day, the group moves into the ending stage, where members can process what they did in group and look towards the future.
Coming back this morning at 9 o'clock, what's it been like? Did you have any afterthoughts? Maybe I saw some of you writing in your journals even. Anything you put in there about your participation in the group yesterday. So maybe we can just take a moment or two and hear from each of you.
And also being aware that that is our last session. And when you first came here, I asked you to look around the room and kind of check people out and be aware of yourself and how you felt in the room. And you might even do that right now as you're kind of reflecting on the day yesterday and kind of being aware of one another right now, knowing that you're going to be leaving. We asked you the first day about your concerns of being here. And I'd also hope you can maybe talk about today about your concerns about leaving if you have any. And so just kind of reflect on that and maybe look around the room and just kind of be aware of what is going on with you at this moment.
Overall, my afterthoughts was how beautiful I see each person every time I hear each one share about themselves and how I can relate to that.
Well, I can certainly say that there's really been a transformation and since the first day, and just how much I just look around the room and just feel so much more comfortable, and just everybody's kind of shared, and it just seems like it's like, wow, this is really possible to have kind of this sort of experience with other people. And
With both of you, I remember yesterday when you did some work, you didn't want to look up. You were looking at the ground and you covered your hands and you were crying and you said, God, I don't remember but I remember you were either embarrassed or there was a sense of shame, and you let go with a lot of tears. Did you have any second thoughts about that? Either one of you.
I think it helped me to just check out the room, when we kind of came back afterwards and checked out things.
The afterthought that I have is that the people that shared, like Jacqueline and Casey, that they had trouble articulating, and that Andrew shared he had trouble being sensitive. It's like everything stood out to me and everybody else, the things that they shared, that's what they were good at, the things that they felt like they were weak at. I was real impressed that that's it. And it gave me a thought, gee, maybe the things that I'm so critical about myself, I'm critical because that's what's important to me, and that maybe I am better at that. Maybe I'm not so boring as I think, and it's easy for me to see it in other people, and so I'm trying to transfer that into something that I see for myself. I could see that I'm maybe most critical about something that's actually one of my greatest assets.
I also feel like I didn't get a lot of stuff done. I wish it would have been a week long. Could have got more things done. But I'm happy about the things that I did get to work on.
The previous evening, there was some conflict surrounding noise made in the residential setting, which the group now needed to address.
So I'm real aware of, like, some people were kind of upset, but that's something we can deal with later.
But maybe later might be now. Do you need to check out with anybody if they're
I don't know if
upset
later
with
is
you?
now. I don't know if I want later to be now.
Oh.
Because I don't know if
Well,
I guess I could check,
yeah,
but
you could check it out.
I don't feel like it's
Right.
appropriate or something.
What are you concerned about?
I'm concerned that, earlier, I really, like with yourself, I really care for you as a person and stuff, and I felt bad that, I take things in, like, gosh, she was upset at me, and you were upset at me.
What was she upset at you for?
Actually, I'm sorry you take it personally,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I wasn't.
Yeah. And I wish you would have been up there, celebrating with us and having fun. I missed you there.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Feels good to hear that.
That's good.
And the only reason I wasn't there is because I wasn't feeling well and I was
Right.
laying down, and that's why I asked you to be quiet or quieter.
Right.
And I'm sorry that you took it like I was attacking you, because that's not how I meant it. In fact, it took me 40 minutes to come up there to ask you to be quiet because I was kind of afraid.
Yeah.
And I think also in terms of what was going on here, we have a different agenda today. Yet I think in some ways, that was simmering and you need to bring that up, to kind of be more present.
Now ready to move on, group members continue to discuss what they've accomplished over the past 3 days.
You were saying, I have safety issues in this room and it's hard for me to feel safe. What did you do that felt particularly good, that led to your feeling safer?
I think just addressing them and
Addressing who?
Addressing my safety issues, and I think it was Jill and Jackie more yesterday that I addressed with it the most, and just doing that and getting your feedback was a big help. And also I also want to address Jackie that more or less thank you for the work you did yesterday with your mother. Really, I addressed it yesterday briefly, that it just really helped me to realize how I felt, the feelings I had about my mom, and just being, just always wanting to protect her and not wanting to say anything bad about her because she's such a good mom. And I never realized why before until you had said that yesterday. So I thank you for making me aware of that for myself.
Thanks. That really helps to hear. It's nice to hear. Thanks.
Thank you.
An important part of the ending stage is to explore how group members can build on what they have learned in the group setting.
So we would like to hear one specific thing that you're taking away from here from this weekend, and especially what might you want to do with that and what you have learned in your life away from here. And you might even talk about what might get in the way.
What do you want to be able to say when we come to the follow-up meeting that you've done, accomplished, and how can you best make that happen? What kind of contract that you would like to establish for yourself? So who wants to start?
I do. What I would hope to take the most from this is the ability to not be afraid of somebody who's quiet, or not be afraid of somebody's anger, to hang in there and get to know them better like I got to know you better. And now I just feel nothing but nurturing from you. I don't feel any of the fears that I had at pre-meeting. So I'd like to be able to extend that to more people.
And I think one thing that's coming out here, and it came out earlier this morning, is to talk, to say out loud some of the things that you were thinking in your head, and to hang in there and listen to one another, and to say what you need to say to each other. How about others? What do you want to carry away?
Just as I had mentioned before, just kind of starting to realize like what things I would like to say to my mom, just now knowing that they're there. I think I've always known they're there. I've just been like felt really bad saying them, and or guilty more than anything. Like it would be misconstrued and she'd take it wrong, and like I didn't appreciate everything else. So I think I want to try and have a talk with her and just let her know how I feel.
And if you can use one another as support, like maybe you could call, James has a similar issue. Maybe you could call him and say, hey, I'm going to call you one way or another to tell you how it went. Would that be helpful for you?
Yeah, I think it would.
I want to check out with you. It seems like some of your work has been with two parts of you. One part that is self-contained, that you've defined as kind of protected in a cocoon, and the other part that you very graphically talked about, opening a door, a crack, letting more of the vulnerable or soft side out. Has that become any clearer in your awareness of those two parts of you?
Yeah, actually there is, because the soft, gentle, caring side it's definitely there. But I think what needs to be mated with that to make it safe is that fearless, defiant side of me.
So what side do you want to be?
The gentle, caring, defiant.
You know, Andrew, yesterday I have an image of you in terms of what you kind of your struggle, and that was when you were sitting next to Casey. There was the tough part of you. They did not allow you to give expression to this tender side of you by reaching out to her. And that was kind of, I think, what you're talking about too, in that whole battle. And how, you know, more often, I hope in your life, that you know you have the inclination to move forward and you stop yourself. And then you can catch yourself at that moment, you know, when you want to retreat. Will you take the chance and go a little further? Now I hope that, and it goes for any one of you, any one of the contracts you're making and you have not done it, that you do still come to the follow-up, even if you didn't do what you said. Because I've learned to say that, because sometimes people make all kinds of contracts they didn't do it, and then decide, well, I'm not going to tell those folks, I won't show up. Anything else about, as we were focusing on you, Jill, anything else you'd want to say? What you're taking away from you?
Well, I think I said this earlier about how good it felt to connect with this group.
What did you do here to make that connection more possible?
I put myself out there. I took a risk. Took a
Can
lot
you
of risk.
think of one risk you took here that you remember? What was it?
Yesterday, when I asked Andrew not to let go of that part of him, that I like that part of you, your sensitivity and your caring, and that I would be very sad not to see that in you.
And before all of that gets away from you too much, you might decide to write some of that down in your journal, so that gives you help to remember it. You know, because a lot of times within an intensive 3 days, a lot of things that you're learning and realize or you want to do, it's amazing how quickly you forget.
Finally, the group contrasts their first session together with where they are right now.
And do you have any different perceptions of people in the room from what you had the first day before you, especially those of you who didn't know each other? You know, any assumptions that you had about a particular person or perception that may have changed?
I was so aware of the differences between everybody, and now it just seems like there's a humanness.
I don't see any like masks or something. It's I know I came with mine, and I think I put them on everybody else. But now I know everybody. They're gone, and it's kind of nice.
I see a lot of beautiful different colors and experiences and faces, and I feel like I fit into.
I think mine's similar to that in that I usually feel real comfortable about everyone else, but the difference between the first day and now is that I feel seen but still loved, you know. It's like, that feels really good.
I feel exactly like that. I'm not rehearsing. My head doesn't hurt. It just comes out, and I really love what comes out. And I know you all still like me, and it feels so warm. And one thing I remember most is with Suzanne's how I pictured you before, and how was I so afraid of you, and it's not even close to that. I can look at you and just smile and know what we're talking about.
I feel approved of.
And you had a lot of doubts that you would get that here?
I had some doubts. Mother's not here in the form of any of you.
As important as a group like this is, I think the real importance is what are you going to do with it and where are you going to go from here. But I think this gives you maybe an insight into yourself of what you could be if you go on full power.
I like to hold your hands for a second. Would that be okay? Can I just...
Often in groups, members can develop a strong sense of camaraderie and trust.
So I hope all of you hold on to some of the, especially the hard work that brought you from day 1 to day 3, and how it felt the first day, and how you ended up here. Because that's what's crucial. Not just to remember that you felt good at the end of 3 days, but how did you make it happen? It's the key.
About how you close the group here.
Well, we always remind members of the endings and prepare them for termination. People need an opportunity to consolidate what they've learned. They need an opportunity to talk about how they learned some things about themselves and what they intend to do with it once they leave here. We also ask members to make contracts about specific things they're willing to do with people in their lives that they want to do, and they give themselves their own homework that they can carry out.
You know, I ask members when they first come to the group about their fears and expectations about coming to the group. I also want to check in with them as they're leaving the group about any concerns and fears they may have about leaving the group. I want them to be sure that there is not unfinished business, either with them toward us or amongst themselves. So they have an opportunity to deal with unfinished business. As Jerry is saying, we remind them beforehand that the group will come to an end so they can attend to any unfinished business. We want them to be very specific and very concrete. What did you learn in the group? How did you learn it? And what are you going to do with it when you get away here from the group?
And we also ask at the end of a day, how was this particular day? Now we're asking, how was it to be in this group for 3 days? And what do you think you're taking away?
If you had one final suggestion to make to those becoming group leaders, what would that be?
For me, the most important I would want to say to anybody going into group counseling is that they have been a member in a group themselves. I think you can read many textbooks. You cannot ever get the kind of information from a textbook than you can get by participating in a group yourself. You will learn a lot more about your own resistance and what resistance is all about and what functions it serves by participation and experiencing it rather than reading about it.
Right, I fully agree. I think it's sort of like you can't take a person on a journey if you're totally unfamiliar with that. And my guess is that some watching this video will be intimidated with the emotion and the feelings coming out, and maybe even overwhelmed. And I think your clients are going to be bringing out these issues and these feelings. And so I think this is a challenge. It's not just learning skills and knowledge that makes a counselor. It's also being willing to kind of stay there, listen to what you're hearing, and do your own personal work. And of course, supervision is important and your own training.
What I would like to tell the students is that they find a way to develop their own style. We have found a way that works for us, and we don't have the last word on how to run a group most efficiently and effectively.
And so often, trainees worry about making mistakes, and I think rather than making mistakes, it would be more important to learn from what you're doing. So hopefully you won't burden yourself with having to make the perfect intervention. There are many ways to work with the material that you saw in this video. You're unique, and I think that that's what's important, is to find a way that expresses your own uniqueness.
Through the evolutionary process of a group, people gain new insights and genuine appreciation for the value that group support and confrontation play in their own growth. This group left with a feeling of hope and a sense of gratitude for this unique experience.